Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum viewers. I am here today with my fifth lecture, and this is a continuation of the fourth lecture wherein, if you remember, I talked to you in detail about the flow of information. If you remember that there in that lecture, I talked to you about the network which virtually spans the whole organization, and I used an analogy of bloodline, of blood flowing through a body. Today I am going to continue on further and tell you how this flow of information, which downward, lateral and backward, where is the destination? Where does the information reach? And what is the purpose which this information serves? So keep in mind the last lecture, keep in mind the flow which is taking place, crisscrossing virtually in whole of the organization, and what functions does this flow of information play ultimately? How does it benefit the employees? How does it benefit the organization? Let's go now to the first slide, which is the communication destination. Now, destination could be the internal destination within an organization, or the destination could be outside, external destination, that is across the boundaries of the organization one is working with. First, let's talk about the internal communication. I talked to you that internal communication flows throughout the body structure of the organization. All the employees, anyone virtually down below at the lowest rung of an organization or at the top, needs to know what is going on in an organization. It could be oral, it could be written, it could be meetings, verbally, small meetings, large meetings, but virtually everybody is involved in the process of sharing the information. So internal organization, in internal communication, virtually each one is kept alive, kept informed, because whatever is the purpose of the organization, it has to deal with the people working, and they have to be involved in the whole process of sharing of information, sharing of decision making, and sharing of the responsibilities for the ultimate goal of the organization and as well of the individual. So that part which I mentioned in my last lecture serves into the internal structure of an organization. Larger the organization, greater the inflow of the information, and greater the responsibilities of each one in contributing to the welfare of this organization and achieving the objectives of the organization. Talking about the external communication, let's see the first slide. Where does the external communication flow? Now, in the external communication, we basically require contacts with the stockholders, government agencies, suppliers, customers, etc. Now, keep in mind that while communication is important internally, it is very essential for establishing a contact with the outside world. Like I said, initially, the stockholders, the people who have dumped the money, people who have put the money at stake, they want to know what is going on in the organization, whether the products they have put in the money for is of the right quality, whether it's serving the people. They want to know what is happening. What is the financial position of the company, whether the profits are being made, and profits are being made not at the expense of the environment, not at the expense of the health of the people, not at the expense of the safety and security of the people. All this information need to be given to the stockholders. Likewise, we need to have a contact with the suppliers. We need to have a contact with the customers. After all, an organization which is there to serve the people, to market the products, they are for the consumption of the people. Now, how do people receive that? So all this information need to be passed on. For this, you would be indulging in written communication, in oral communication, in meeting, in using the various medias. So all this has to be involved through channels like written or oral communication. Hence, communication, whether internal or external, need to be very well mastered at all levels of an organization. Globalization trend demands establishing closer links with parent organization overseas. Now, there has been a marked change in the whole economic structure world over. The globalization has set in. Now, any company which is operating out as well as its subsidiaries, its other sister companies operating in all parts of the world. So globalization trend has brought in a marked change in the requirement of the communication process. Globalization demands that information, what is happening in other organizations, must be transferred to the parent companies. People there outside countries want to know what is happening. They want to know whether the rules and the regulations they are employing, they are using within their own companies, are likewise used in other sister organizations as well. There's a demand now, increasing demand from the consumers, from the various stakeholders. I'm using the word stakeholders, not the stockholders. Stakeholders are those who directly or indirectly are concerned with the manufacturing of a product in any part of the world. The stakeholders are those who are living around that company, around that industry, those who are the suppliers, those who are the consumers, those who look after the welfare of the people. All these want to know how an organization is performing. So, parent organizations share great responsibility for their subsidiaries, and they have got obligation to find out whether the management is rightly looking after the interests of the employees, right at the lowest level or at the top level. Now, new theories are emerging. The new managing styles are emerging. That is where they are looking for the global responsibility of such business concerns, because now suddenly the responsibility for bringing up a qualitative change in the lives of the people is being shifted to corporations like which are big economic entities. What the now new terminology which is being used is the social responsibilities for such business organizations, to see that besides generating economic activity, they are as well looking for the welfare of the people. So that adds more to establishing closer links with the companies operating everywhere. Now, report preparations for financiers, shareholders, board of directors, this involves good writing abilities. Now, you know that you can have a telephonic contact with the various suppliers, with the various people who are interested in knowing how a company is performing, but at the same time, information needs to be provided in the form of short reports, long reports, annual reports. So it needs good writing abilities. Managers at the higher position need to be well skilled, besides oral, in written abilities as well. So extra focus, extra attention needs to be given for improving the writing abilities. And writing abilities could not only be for the reports, but as well sometimes you have to write articles. You have to advertise people for asking better people coming over, joining the organizations. You have to see to it that you have to publicize your products. You are in competition with other companies. So written abilities will affect how well you project your company's image. So written abilities contribute a lot in building up the image of your organization. Oral communications involve meetings, telephone conversations, and conferences, while written communication involves letters and reports. I would like to emphasize here a couple of things, because I know one day you will be engaging yourself in such an activity. When you will be in a position where you'll be interacting with people at the top and right at the bottom, you will be mostly engaging yourself in one-to-one meetings or person-to-group meetings. And at the same time, you would be frequently using telephone for quick and prompt action. Keep in mind both these modes of communication, they have their plus points and they have got negative points. You must have often come across that there are frequent meetings in organizations. You walk into the office of any officer you are required to work with, you find an excuse that he or she is busy in the meeting. Lots of meetings are going on and on and on, sometimes with little or no increase in the productivity. So keep in mind that if you really want to use communication as an effective tool in conducting meetings, then these meetings must be planned and executed efficiently. And when I say efficiently, I mean that you must see to it that the meetings have definite agenda, meetings have the right amount of people involved, with accountability what they are going to achieve, what they are going to discuss. Meetings should always be productive. And the right people for the right assignments should be involved in discussion, those who are required in decision making. So keep in mind that to make communication effective, whenever you conduct meetings, you see to it that meetings are productive. Otherwise, if you frequently indulge in meetings, you'll be wasting the time, not only yours, but as well of the other people who would be shifting their load either to the people down, or they would be postponing their responsibilities, hence marring the effectivity, productivity, efficiency of an organization. So be careful when you indulge in organizing meetings. At the same time, we have got a notion, we have got a concept. The telephone is a very prompt medium. You can immediately get a response. This is a fallacy. ये बात दुरुस्त नहीं. At times you must have seen कि आपको कभी फौरी इंक्वायरी चाहिए होती है. You pick up the phone and you call the person. If it's a long distance call, you are risking money, you are risking your time. What you find that the other person is not available on the phone. You make an attempt one, twice, couple of times, and every time you miss the person. Now here is not an efficient use of telephone. And if that inquiry, that information you are seeking is to be followed by a written communication, then it's a wastage of money. Now, efficient use of telephone is your decision to see to it whether that can be substituted by sending a fax, sending an email, or you really want to talk to the person, or before you could send a fax, have an appointment and then make a call. So the important thing which I want to mention here is that both these tools which you will be using for communication exchange, meetings or telephone, see to it that they are used efficiently and with the minimum cost incurred. Telephones normally supposed to be an economical tool for quick information exchange turn out to be a very expensive proposition. That's what I wanted you to keep in mind. About written communication, that you will be frequently involved in preparing reports. See to it that complete information is given in the reports which the people whom the report is meant for, they receive the information. If the information is complete, if the writing is not correct, if there are mistakes, if for the preparation you have to do the exercise again and again, it's going to cost you the money. I'm going to talk about that later on in this lecture, how communication, written communication, can incur a lot of cost. So for both these, written communication and oral communication, you can really make them a very economical and prompt mode of communication if you employ them efficiently, diligently, and carefully. Let me now come down to a very important aspect of communication, and that is the benefit of communication. Communication benefits both, as I said, to the employees and to the organization. Let's see how the employees get benefited by the communication, the frequent flow of communication which we talked about. The first, foremost important is the conflict resolution. Keep in mind, in an organization where there are people working, where there are people interacting, where there are people frequently exchanging views and ideas, they are bound to have conflict. Conflict is an obvious, essential component where more than two people are engaged. Because people have their own personal goals, could be professional goals. Likewise, they have got the collective goals of the organization. And people have, at times, have different approaches to achieving the same objective. So, bound to have differences. So, conflict could be either marring the efficiency, or it could be resolving the differences to establish unity and coordination amongst the people. So, conflict is an inevitable. Conflict can lead to creativity, it can lead to innovation, and it can lead to change. See, conflict can lead? Yes, because people have got different approaches. And when they have got different approaches, then they're bound to sit together and come across with different point of views. So the management of conflict will lead to innovativeness, creativeness for a change. Change in any organization is very important. If there's no innovation, if there's no creativity, if there's no change, there'll be stagnation in an organization. अपनी ही जिंदगी में देख लें, अगर हमारी जिंदगी में चेंज ना आए, हमारी जिंदगी में मोनोटनी आ जाएगी. और चेंज लाने के लिए डेफिनेटली there will be some disturbance, some adjustment. So in nature too, you observe the nature. Nature, there's always change going. और मैं यहाँ आपको एक बड़ी अच्छी मिसाल देता जाऊं जो हमारे मजहब से भी रिलेटेड है. आपने अक्सर सुना होगा, कहते हैं कि चलता पानी, बहता पानी पाक है. वो क्यों? उससे वुजू जायज है. Because the water is changing, continuously changing, freshening. If the water stagnates, putrefies, नीचे उसमें stagnation आती है. And that's why इस्लाम में उससे वुजू की इजाजत नहीं दी गई. जिस तरह नेचर के अंदर चेंज एक इंपॉर्टेंट एलिमेंट है, इस तरह हमारी जिंदगी में भी, ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में भी चेंज बहुत जरूरी है. और कॉन्फ्लिक्ट रेजोल्यूशन एक इंपॉर्टेंट कंपोनेंट है मैनेजमेंट का, और ये मैनेजर्स की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है. सी टू इट wherever there is conflict, see it from a positive angle and try to resolve the differences. Differences are not personal differences. Differences are for achieving the objectives of the organization. So conflict management benefits people, it benefits organizations. और managers के लिए, they must develop these skills, art of conflict management amongst the people, so that they could learn to collectively work together, create unity amongst the people. You must be very familiar with the labor people often having conflicts with the management. It's positive development. They are fighting with the management, not because for extra benefits at the cost of the organization. Rather, they want to put in more labor. They want to earn more. But at the same time, they want to get benefit. वो कहते हैं, हमें profit में भी, if increase the profit, give us more share. So that's a healthy sign of negotiation, of communication, and that's why conflict resolution, conflict management in an organization involves a very deep knowledge of art of communicating with the people, to listening to their complaints, to listening to their grievances, and then resolve them, because it's a healthy and it should be embraced helpfully. Another important thing which benefits the employees is the motivation. Motivation is basically the satisfaction of your inner desires through action and behavior. We all have our own needs. We are need driven. When I'm working in an organization, I want to earn more. I want to improve my quality of life. I want to improve my standard of living. I want to improve the standard of living of my family. I want to have a social living. I want to be recognized amongst the community I live in. I want to improve mentally. I want to grow professionally. ये सारी चीजें motivation, internal motivation. Either I'm driven from inside to attain all these goals, or somebody else, my senior manager, helps me in acquiring my desires and needs. मोटिवेशन के लिए ज़रूरी है कि मैनेजर्स डिसीजन मेकिंग में एम्प्लॉयज़ को इन्वॉल्व करे, उनको एक्नॉलेज करे, उनको एम्पावर करे. ये सारी चीज़ें तभी हो सकती हैं when a manager is familiar with the art of communication. The manager interacts with people and keeps on encouraging them, telling them that they are a part of the decision making. People, employees, they know about the mission, they know about the vision, they know about the values, they know about the objectives of the organization. Once they know all these, they start owning the services, they start owning the product of the organization. कहते हैं ये मेरी organization है. And when that thing comes, it's only through motivation, overall growth, overall development organization की होती. इसके लिए motivation plays a very important role, and that is the responsibility of the manager, higher management, senior management, to see that the people at all levels they remain motivated, and this motivation can bring the people together, unity or harmonious atmosphere create कर सकती है. एक और चीज जो बहुत जरूरी है, जो कि अक्सर जहां लोग काम करें वहां प्रॉब्लम्स अराइज होते हैं. आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट the conflicts I have just talked about. The problems, sometimes the systems are not working. Management has provided facilities, but the objectives are not achieved. Let me take a very simple example. अमूमन इंडस्ट्रीज में, ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में कैफेटेरिया बनाया जाता है और वो फैसिलिटीज सब्सिडाइज रेट पे लोगों को दी जाती ताकि they don't have to bring the food from home. What if the food provided to the employees is not of good quality? What would be the ultimate outcome? People will get sick. ज़्यादा absenteeism होगी. लोग complain करेंगे. But if somebody is not listening, problem will arise. Not conflict, but problem, because the system is not working. The supplier of the canteen was supposed to give good quality food, is not giving. So, firstly, why has the problem arisen? Because there has been a lack of communication. अगर कभी problem किसी वजह से किसी level पे आया है, तो that's an indication that the communication barrier आया हुआ है. Somebody somewhere is not working according to laid down procedures. So you need to resolve those problems. You need to find out where the fault is. Identification of the fault, identification of the problem, and then pinpointing the cause of that problem. Resolution of that problem involves negotiation, needs communication. Then after you have resolved all these things, then reporting, making a record of that, informing to the people down below at the higher level. So everything at every level needs communication. So problem solving में आपका communication का बहुत important element. और communication can as well need to be employed for problem solving of the people in the departmental level too. ये तो मैंने cafeteria, canteen की example आपको वैसे दी. But internally too there could be problems. In the system you have used within your organization, your own department, it might not be functioning for certain reason. The systems are not working because the system did not involve the decision-making process of the employees for whom the decision was made. Their problem could as well be arisen. So, ये चीज़ें continuous process हैं problem solving की. इसके लिए art of communication बहुत ज़रूरी है और especially managers need to be well versed in this art of problem resolution. Public relationing, एक कंपनी का इमेज, एक कंपनी की गुडविल, एक कंपनी की प्रोडक्ट की मार्केटिंग का इम्पैक्ट डिपेंड करता है आप उस प्रोडक्ट को, उस कंपनी की सर्विसेज को कैसे लोगों तक पहुंचाते हैं. You are sitting in an aeroplane, you are flying somewhere, you pick up the magazine, you open it, and you find an ad of a certain product. That is public relationing. वो ad reflects what the product is. It reflects also company कहाँ किस level पे काम कर रही है. So their public relationing is not only person to person involvement, but as well as the way you are representing, projecting your company. Public relations is, of course, interacting with different people, going into the marketing field, interacting with people. और खैर उसके लिए तो definite departments हैं. Let me even give an example of chief executive officer who need to be a good public relationing officer. When your chief executive officer of a company goes to attend some social gathering, he is projecting his or her company. How he or she interacts with people gives an image of the company. So communication at that level is important. Communication is important even at the lower level. When you are walking, interacting with people, you talk about your company. That is how you need to know how to project your company, your product, your services. So public relationing में भी आपको skill आनी चाहिए communication की. It mostly it's oral communication. मगर जैसे मैंने आपको कहा कि events हैं, videos हैं, आपने matches में देखा होगा कि product की marketing, this is public relationing. So whereas oral communication is important, written communication is also equally essential for public relationing. Now, let me talk to you about benefits of communication as pertaining to organizations. ये तो मैंने अभी individuals की बात की. Companies को, organizations को अच्छी communication से कैसे benefit होता है. सबसे पहले is the positive image. किसी organization का image to the outside world would depend how the people are interacting. And mind it, positive image of a company would depend virtually at every level. Even the moment I walk into an office, when I park my car in the parking area and the man sitting over there जो कि मुझे दरवाजा खोलता है, अगर उसका behavior ठीक नहीं है, it will reflect a bad image of the company. He's a very small entity in organization, but that will reflect how has he been trained. चे जाए कि आपने एक एम्प्लॉय को बिठाया हुआ है जो कि इंटरेक्ट कर रहा है आफ्टर सेल्स सर्विसेज के लिए, and his or her interaction with people may be very good, but if that person sitting in the parking lot behaves indecently, brings a bad name to the company. So virtually, देखिए कितनी importance है public image की at this. Let me give you a very good example, my own personal experience. Okay, and that will reflect you कि image building एक sales officer भी करता है, एक marketing का आदमी करता है, एक senior manager भी करता है. I was traveling, I was coming from a meeting, and I happened to have a stopover in Holland. And I walked into a duty-free shop. I picked up a branded cologne, मेरा favorite cologne था. I picked it up and brought back home. I used it for a couple of weeks, and suddenly I discovered it was a vaporizer. And suddenly I discovered that when I'll press it, nothing will come out, just few vapors. I was wonderstruck. I spent a lot of money, and the product was faulty. But I kept that bottle with me, because at least उसके अंदर से कुछ कतरे निकल आते थे, and that satisfied me. It was my favorite brand. After about 2 years, I happened to land in Paris, और वो branded project का head office Paris में था. Suddenly it occurred to me, I wanted to see how do companies operate. I walked into that shop, and the lady who attended to me I talked to her. I said, I have got one of your products which is not functioning well. उसके अंदर कोई manufacturing fault है. She asked me to bring the product the next day. I took the product and I told her कि मेरे पास इसकी रसीद नहीं है और ना ही मैंने यहाँ से खरीदा है. I bought it 2 years ago from a duty-free shop. And you will be amazed. The answer was, doesn't matter. It is our product. It reflects the image of our company. She went in, she brought me a new, fresh bottle. And that was the impression I got about a company, that an ordinary salesperson at that level was even concerned about the image of the company. So it was only because she was trained to uphold the credibility of their product. So this was the communication skills जिसमें वो train हुई थी, और she left such an indelible mark. मैं आज तक वो brand इस्तेमाल कर रहा हूँ. Another thing is the cost reduction. Keep in mind that when you have got inefficient people working in an organization, they are working at some cost. A person who types a letter 10 times to make it error-free, to make it perfect for sending, it is costing you some money. Give you an example. Supposing in an organization where there are 10,000 employees, if each employee wastes 10% of his or her time in such errors, in repetition of the work, and if in terms of money it costs 100 rupees per day, it's going to cost the organization 1 million rupees. देखिए, आप एक चीज को बार बार कर रहे हैं. जैसे मैंने आपको अभी एग्जांपल दी कि आप टेलीफोन के ऊपर you are making an attempt to reach to the person 10 times. It is costing you money. You are not employing the right mode of communication. Likewise, when you are typing a letter, you're making errors because of your inefficiency, because of lack of information, it's costing the company money. So overall, see to it, if the things are done properly, it's going to save you money. Let me now talk to you about the employees' morale. मैंने जैसे शुरू में कहा था कि organizations are made of individuals. Individuals are the lifeblood of an organization. Individuals run an organization. If they are not happy, the health of the organization will not be good. The organization will not be able to sustain longer because the people are not internally satisfied. So how to keep the morale of the people high? That is, invest in people. And when you invest in people, you invest through communication. You invest in improving their skills. You invest in improving their environment. If I know that an employee has worked for 11 months, worked very hard, then if I want to boost his morale, I would say, okay, take 15 days leave, go with your family, go up to the north, spend in the hilly areas, and then come back. It will increase his morale. He will believe that I care for him, and not only I care for him, I care for his family. I should be looking for that his family is happy, that he doesn't have family problems. If he doesn't have family problems, he will invest more time in the organization. So employees' morale boost करने के लिए any manager, any organization should create conditions, programs, environments, and activities so that they all the time are more interested and more active in achieving their goals. Employees' productivity. Obviously, productivity तभी increase होगी if there is good harmonious relationship amongst the people. अभी मैंने employees morale की बात की. जब morale उनका बेहतर होगा, productivity automatically increase होगी. लेकिन उसके अलावा कुछ और चीजें बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट कंपोनेंट्स हैं. दैट इज यू हैव टू सी टू इट दैट द सिस्टम्स आर वेल इन प्लेस्ड. मोरल बहुत ज्यादा है, मोटिवेशन बहुत है, लेकिन डायरेक्शन ठीक नहीं. गिव यू एन एग्जांपल. एक मक्खी की मिसाल देता हूं आपको. जब एक मक्खी एक कमरे में बंद हो जाए और खिड़की में से जब रोशनी आ रही होती है, तो आप देखिए कि वो मक्खी बड़ी तेजी में आती है और शीशे के साथ टकराती है, फिर वापस चली जाती है. फिर एनर्जी मस्टर करती है, आती है, टकराती है, वापस चली जाती है. बहुत मोटिवेशन है उसके अंदर, वॉन्ट्स टू गेट आउट, बट द डायरेक्शन इज रॉन्ग. प्रोडक्टिविटी के लिए ये बहुत जरूरी है. आपने मोरल तो बूस्ट कर दिया, बट द डायरेक्शन इज नॉट करेक्ट. People have not been told what to do, how to increase the productivity. Therefore, it is essential that components like communication are well placed, and they're placed in a fashion that it takes care of the productivity and the other things which I mentioned to you just a couple of minutes before. Now, having said all this, let me talk about the misconceptions we have about communication. आपसे कम्युनिकेशन के बारे में इतनी तफसील गुफ्तगू की. I have told you the process involved. I have told you the flow communication कैसे आती है. I have told you what to do and how to do. लेकिन there are certain misconceptions about communication, and I'm going to talk about that. पहला, communication. We need more communication. आपने अक्सर देखा होगा in organizations that people at all levels, whether senior level or junior level, complain करते हैं कि there is not enough communication in the organization. हमें पता नहीं लग रहा कि क्या हो रहा है. We are not well informed. Their complaint might be correct to some extent, but let me tell you one thing, that greater communication, the amount of communication, the quantity of communication is not important. It is the quality of communication which is more important. And why do I say that? Let me give you an example. हमारी आंख इतना कुछ देखती है. And if I tell you that the eye has the capacity to compute information, to see information, 500 million bits of information, has a capacity to cater for 500 million bits of information per second. But our mind is only capable of computing 500 bits. इससे ज्यादा इंफॉर्मेशन वो कंप्यूट कर ही नहीं सकता. आप सुबह उठते हो, आपको मैसेजेस मिलते हैं. आप इंटरेक्ट करते हो लोगों के साथ, आपको मैसेजेस मिल रहे होते हैं. आप लाइट पे खड़े हो, आप गाड़ी में बैठे हो, आपके इर्द गिर्द यू आर रिसीविंग मैसेजेस, but you are not computing that information. The reason is that our mind is not tuned for such information, for so much information. What actually we need is the qualitative information. Quantity नहीं चाहिए, हमें quality of information. आपको याद होगा कि मैंने शुरू में आपको कहा कि ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के डिफरेंट लेवल्स पे जब इंफॉर्मेशन फ्लो करती है, तो हर एक लेवल पे अकॉर्डिंग टू द नीड इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए. So be careful that what you need is the qualitative information and not the quantity. Second thing, communication solves all problems. When I'm talking to you about quality of information, I would at the same time would like to emphasize that you have to be very vigilant while interacting with people, because what you see could be deceptive. जैसे मैंने अभी थोड़ी देर पहले कहा आपको कि आंख कुछ देखती है, दिमाग कुछ और प्रोसेस कर रहा है, and that at times causes confusion. I'm going to again quote you a very personal example which amazed me a lot, and I discovered that really आपके गिर्द इतनी इंफॉर्मेशन है, माइंड आपका कोई और किसी और स्टेट में कुछ और प्रोसेस कर रहा है, and people get a wrong impression. One morning I was having a walk, and normally at that time in the morning I am involved in my own thoughts, and that day I was listening to the to the songs of the birds in the trees. I was feeling the breeze and was enjoying my walk. I was deeply involved. But I was moving on the track. और मेरे लोग मुझसे मेरे पास से गुजर जा रहे थे. मुझे नहीं पता कौन जा रहा है कौन. मैं अपने ही ख्यालात में जा रहा था. अपने ख्यालों में. That day when I went home, I received a call from one of my very close friends. And he said to me, Nazim, are you annoyed with me? I said, no. नहीं, तुम मुझसे नाराज हो. मैंने कहा, no, why should I? कहता है, your behavior was very insulting this morning. I said, what happened? I said, this morning I saw you walking towards me. I came close to you. I extended my hand. You didn't shake my hands. I said, I don't remember you. कहता, no, you were looking at me. I said, no, I was not. देखिए, आंख देख रही थी, mind process नहीं कर रहा था. Then I told him, I said, believe you me, I was absorbed in my thoughts. Keep in mind that you will come across lots of such incidences in your life when people might mistake you that you are observing, you are getting the message, but in reality, no. Your mind is processing something else. वही वाली बात. 500 million bits of information your eye is capable of getting at, but mind can only process 500. So let's go in for qualitative information and not the quantity. Another very important aspect which I like to emphasize here is that we have got another misconception that communication solves all problems. We think that communication is the cure-all for all problems. ये सब बीमारियों का हल है. सब problems का हल यही है, ज़्यादा communication, बेहतर communication, more open communication, more candid communication. Wrong. Keep in mind that communication, whereas communication has the potential for solving problems, it has also the potential for increasing the problems as well. ये दो धारी तलवार है. ये उस रेजर की मानंद है. अगर तो skillful hands के हाथ में होगा, can use it for shaving, or if it is in the hands of an unskilled person, will cut his throat. Communication is a tool which can only be used skillfully. If you use skillfully, then you can solve the problems. Otherwise, you will add to the problems. Let me give you a good example of a husband and wife. A newly married couple, they decided that let's be very open and candid in our communication. Let us more often tell to each other what we feel so that there is nothing hidden between us. ताकि हमारे दरमियान कोई ऐसी चीज ना हो जो दूसरे को ना पता हो. Let us be very candid. Let's be more open. Let's communicate more often. And they had the concept कि communication से हमारे problems हल हो जाएंगे. One day, the husband said to his wife that I have observed that you lack confidence when you talk to people for the first time. And whenever you open your mouth, you start stammering. तुम्हें confidence नहीं है. और तुम, your talk doesn't make sense. He was right. He was very candid. He was very open. This put the wife off. She bounced back immediately. Said, well, at least I'm more educated than you. तुम्हारी तो तालीम ही उतनी नहीं जितनी मेरी है. I will learn the skill over a period of time. But let me tell you, you will never learn the art of communication. That was the breaking point in the relationship. Although they were very candid, they were very open, but this was undesired. What ultimately happened was that in future they could never open up. Ultimately they have to land to a psychiatrist to save their marriage. See to it that communication is an important tool, but you have to learn the art. And at times, बहुत ज़्यादा भी बात खुलेआम perhaps could put you off. Communication sometimes breaks down. अक्सर प्रॉब्लम, शिकायत लोगों की ये है कि हम दोनों में कम्युनिकेशन ब्रेकडाउन हो गया, वी कांट कम्युनिकेट। प्रॉब्लम किस में है? कम्युनिकेशन में। हम एक दूसरे के साथ कम्युनिकेशन कर ही नहीं सकते। लेट मी गिव यू माई ओन एग्जाम्पल, एंड दिस इज I'm supposing, this is not in reality. Supposing if I fail to communicate with my sister because I feel that she doesn't like my wife. मेरे दिमाग में यह है कि मेरी बहन मेरी बीवी को पसंद नहीं करती. With this presupposition, whenever I enter into dialogue with her, मेरा attitude, मेरा behavior बदल जाता है. Because I have got this doubt. I have got this misconception in my mind that my sister doesn't like my wife. लिहाजा मेरा communication behavior उसके साथ बदल जाएगा. When my behavior changes, automatically communication will be faulty. Therefore, to blame कि हमारे में communication ineffective है is wrong. No, there is deep-seated doubt, deep-seated hatred, which is breaking down the communication. So keep in mind that whenever communication breaks down, it may not essentially be, it may not always be faulty or ineffective communication. It could be some doubt, some misgivings, which is the cause. And don't treat the symptoms, look at the cause. Lastly, we believe that meanings are in words. ये मैंने बहुत पहले आपको कहा था कि एक मिसकॉन्सेप्ट हमारे दिमाग में है कि वर्ड्स जो कंटेंट है वो कम्युनिकेशन में ही हेल्प करता है. Fine, it does. But let me tell you that meanings are not in words. Meaning are in people who are communicating. What meanings we attach to the words will ultimately help us to communicate, will help us to interact, and not the words alone. आज ही की मैं बात आपको बताऊं. I was coming with my student. He was traveling with me in the car. Couple of days ago, I told him, I said, I sent you a file. I want that file back. He said, sir, I have already sent you that file. I said, I didn't receive it. He said, sir, go ahead, see your computer. You might have received it today. I said, I'm not talking about that file. I'm talking about the hard file. Look, the meanings. He was talking about the soft file. I was talking about the hard file. So the words do not have meaning. There are more than one meaning to a word. Another example to clarify the whole concept. A person got injured. He had few stitches on his forehead because he went to a playground to watch a match and the ball hit him. He came back and everybody inquired, what has happened? He said, the ball hit me. Now the person who was familiar with baseball and who was a baseball player, and he knew that his friend played baseball, he thought that he was hit by a baseball, by the ball of the baseball. And he inquired, which ball hit you? He said, it was the cricket ball. Now ball has got, it could be a football, it could be a hard ball, it could be a soft ball, but it doesn't convey any meaning. So imagine that in your life, words would be confusing. People would always get different interpretations of the words you use. आप अगर किसी को during the conversation, when you lose temper, if you're annoyed with somebody, अगर आप उसको casually कह दें, तुम तो बहुत बेवकूफ हो, तुम्हें तो तमीज ही नहीं, you are an illiterate person, you do not actually mean that. You do not actually mean illiterate that he is uneducated. You do not mean that he is uncivilized. But if the person attaches that meaning, then interpersonal relationship खराब हो जाएगा, communication में barrier आ जाएगा. So keep in mind that meanings are not in words, meanings are in people. और मैंने बहुत पहले आपको कहा था कि कंटेंट से ज्यादा कंटेक्सुअल जो मैसेजेस हैं वो मीनिंग कन्वे करते हैं. ये परसेप्शन जो है वो कम्युनिकेट करता है. एंड वाइल कम्युनिकेटिंग, see to it that these misconceptions, these wrong notions about the things we attach to the communication process are removed. We must see it from the angle that what the sender is, what the frame of mind of the sender is. आप इन misconceptions को जहन में रखते हुए communication process को जारी रखें, and you will see over a period of time you will improve upon your communication skills. Let me sum up the whole lecture today, that I have told you that in communication, while you keep in mind the various flows coming from the top, going back, feedback, lateral, these communications, they keep the life of the organization healthy and conducive for the growth and development of the people and the organization. You must at the same time equip yourself at whatever level you are. Your position might be the managerial position, or might be the one, as I said to you, at a very lower level. You are contributing to the image of the organization, because your interaction with people, your interaction with public would build up the reputation of the organization, and you are a part of that organization. And this can only be done if you are well versed, if you are trained. Of course, this is the responsibility of the managers to see that you are well able, you are well equipped, you are well trained in that field. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that whatever actions you take, whatever you do, is a reflection on the overall organization, overall health of the company you are working with. So communication is important for each one at every level, and we have to at the same time keep in mind the various intricacies which are important for each one of us to understand, because there are certain misconceptions which may exaggerate, which may blow up the whole image of the organization, and as well as of our own professional growth. So summing up today, I would like that you go through these things in detail, and inshallah in my future lectures I will be now taking each part independently, and we will now start learning the art and technique of how to make a good presentation in my future lectures. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.